Oh, okay, so like you had to clear up some space on my phone. But this is verse 2. Again, it says, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. And Moses' seat was was the highest position that you could have on this earth at the time. You know, he was over, the nation of Israel. Nation of Israel is over all nations. So on the earth at that time, Moses basically was, well, he was the king of Israel. And now the scribes and Pharisees at this time, they sit in Moses' seat, but don't mean that they execute judgment the same way Moses did. Doesn't mean that they had, a direct link with the Most High, or Yahweh Shai, the death angel that was casting out and killing all the firstborn of Israel, of Egypt. You know, it doesn't mean that they was going to 40 days and 40 nights fasting, but they were sitting in that seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works, for they say and do not. So you're gonna have, wicked niggas like that, and it was basically saying that you have to be subject, to those scribes and niggas that are in Moses' seat. It says, for they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. And now, one of the apostles just recently made a video, said, you brothers don't know how good you have it in GMS, you know, because the apostles, they don't, burden us, they tell us to do 3 videos, which we should be doing, I myself included, who been guilty of this. But this is not a heavy burden that, they sit in Moses' seat, you know, but they're not giving us, heavy burdens, as such as, you know, uh, your, I believe they call it ICGJC, where Tazadak's church is, and all types of wickedness and all type of stories that we heard from old, the old school and One West. Verse 5 says, but all their works they do for to be seen of men. And remember Passover back about 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Comfy, he had one of his Passovers, it was just a big giant show. He had a chick with fucking a blonde weave in singing during the Passover. You know, it was to be seen by men, the flashy, you know, decked out garments and everything, and all marching and everybody turning left and right and all in sync, and all the music playing, and people coordinate every specific tiny little detail about it. They wanted to be seen of men. Verse 6, and love the uppermost rooms at feasts and chief seats in the synagogue. Now, that's basically talking about they want to be, they want social status, basically. You know, they always want to be seen. And people like that you got to stay away from. And greetings in the marketplace, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi. Want to be seen. Because Jake love to, be on social media, and show themselves. That's narcissism. Basically what it's describing. And what's funny is, I believe they call it the DCM5 or the D5CM, but it's basically the diagnosis manual for like mental disorders. And narcissism, it was, I think it's called narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. And they took it out because narcissism is so prevalent. So it's actually not even in there no more. You see social media is full of narcissism. You see bitches, just have the camera in their face, just, singing lyrics to a song or blowing kisses and shit like that. Being, self-absorbed with yourself. And a person is very, very into narcissism, they need constant validation from other people. They aren't confident in themselves. They want to be validated, told that they look good. They want to be complimented on their wardrobe. They want to be complimented, all the time. They don't have that self confidence. They need their confidence and compliments and praise from an outside source. Verse 8: be not ye called rabbi, and for one is your master, even Yahweh Shai, and all ye are brethren. So basically, don't try to outdo anybody. You know, you want to be low, you want to be humblest, be the humble. You know, you don't want to be like can I get on that couch, brother? I mean, if the elders come over, or you go over the elders, you want to be as humble as you can be. Verse 9, and call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even Yahushua Hamashiach. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Believe it or not, people notice, when you humble yourself. They might not say anything. They might even, you know, you know, you know, look over you. But there's a certain sect of people that actually can see when a person is being humble. You know, because some people take being humble as a sign of weakness. You know, not wanting to uh, constantly gloat about yourself. Remember watching basketball. One of my favorite basketball players growing up was Reggie Miller, but another one was Tim Duncan. And I remember he came out of Wake Forest. I remember sitting, we was living on High Street when I saw that he got drafted. And something just resonated with me in my spirit about him. I've never seen him in college before play. I just remember them saying that he's supposed to be really good. And I said, let me pay attention to this guy. And Tim Duncan, he was excellent. Had some of the best footwork for a big man ever. But you never saw him gloating. He was always humble. He always had a very, very calm demeanor. You know, he wasn't trying to, dunk on you and, yeah, laugh in you, and try to, make highlights. He was very, very humble. They call him the big fundamental. He was just fundamentally sound. He wasn't trying to be flashy, trying to doing anything unnecessary. But, with that humble personality, he was able to get I think 5 or 4 championships out of that. The guy was very, very humble, and and that carried on to even today to this the Spurs organization. Kawhi Leonard, he's very, very humble, and he humbled himself, but he was exalted because he was, one of the best power forwards, if not the best power forward ever played the game. Verse 13, but woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourselves, neither suffer ye them that are entering to go in. That's kind of self-explanatory. Verse 14, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. So it's the religious leaders that's going to receive the greater condemnation, because they making the people to err. And you got to really examine yourself if you be in the faith, and basically Matthew the 23rd chapter is a beautiful example of this. Reminding us to be humble. You think Yahushua is the king of Israel, and he's the excellency of chivalry. Because chivalry, if you understand, chivalry is basically it was like a code for knights to display. It wasn't always shown towards women. Sometimes chivalry was shown to somebody who was less fortunate than you, or less income than you, or a less social status. You was being nice, and But nowadays you see kings, they want people to serve them. And Yahushua, he showed so much chivalry, towards his disciples. He helped and fed them. That's not something that you see commonly from a king. A king that basically going to inherit the whole earth, and we're going to be joint heirs with him. And he's the most humblest person that you can, think of. He's, washing, the disciples, Peter, and Peter said, no, Yahushua, but he did it, and so he was the example of what excellency was in terms of chivalry. You don't mainly see that in a king. You can't say George Bush or Donald Trump. Going to display any type of courtesy, you know, towards anybody, any of the common people. They're not going to do that. This is why we have one of the best kings, actually the best king. And on that note, I'm going to say all praise to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and double honor to the elders. Shalom.